I had my awakening 3 years ago, and I didn't know before that what an awakening really was. I just know that before I had it, I was making bad decisions in my life that, were holding me down. And I was doing a lot of people pleasing. I felt victimized. I felt controlled. I felt like I couldn't implement goals in my life because if I did, I would have to put in work to make sure that I succeeded. I was a perfectionist and I got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. I was done and I just had a fire lit under me where I just wanted to reach out anywhere I could find help and resources to see what it was I was doing wrong. In order to have that awakening moment, you have to really be open minded to seeing what your shortcomings are, what your flaws are, what it is, you're doing wrong. And that's what I wanted. I didn't care. I didn't let my ego get in my way. As I did in the past, I was like, I just need to learn so I can fix my life. When I was looking for resources to help me, one of them I found was Al Anon. And in case you're not familiar with what Al Anon is, it's a support group for anyone that's affected by someone that has an alcohol problem in their lives. So when I went to these meetings, I got to listen to a lot of other people's stories, and a lot of things resonated with me. And I started seeing how a lot of these people's situations were very similar to mine. And it was crazy because every time someone spoke, I started to feel like they were living my life almost like, what is going on here? I started having all these epiphanies. And it was great though, because like I didn't feel alone. So I was in a room full of all these people that were going through the same situations and, with different people. So I've learned with me that it started in childhood. And I've learned, I think with pretty much all of them too, it started with childhood because I had a parent that drank. But I was told that they weren't an alcoholic. So I believed that. But actually, I've come to realize that the alcohol has absolutely nothing to do with the behaviors that led to it. So I did stay in my Al Anon group for a year. I mean, God, it's been so great. I loved it there so much. And I fully recommend it for anyone. Like, go a few times at least and see if you can get anything out of it. One of the many philosophies that I learned there is take what you like and leave the rest. So, if you can get anything out of it at all, take it, but I wouldn't stop trying. Even if you're there for an hour and you only take out one thing out of that whole hour, it's worth it because it can be life changing. So I started learning more about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. And that, like learning about all of that, that really hit home for me. So if you're not familiar with what that is, I mean, like for me, I just started doing searches online for narcissistic abuse or narcissistic survivor. And there's a lot of videos on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. There's lots of things to read online about it, but it really opened up my eyes to who I was and what I was tolerating from people. I was conditioned to tolerate and accept abuse. And remember, abuse comes in many forms, not just physical. It's emotional, mental, financial. I mean, in my opinion, mental abuse is worse than physical abuse. You can heal from bruises or broken bones, but it's really hard to heal from mental abuse unless you can see it for what it is and you can get the help for it, but it's a long process to recover from. One of the biggest things that I had to learn and understand and implement in my life every single day was acceptance. I had to accept people for who they are and not care about their opinions. Their opinions are none of my business. I had to learn to accept you can't change people. I've learned you cannot control what people think, you cannot control what people feel. and you cannot control what people do. We can only control our reactions to their behaviors. That changed my life. That has gotten me to where I don't care about what other people think of me. And once I've learned that and implemented that mentality, it's been the best mental freedom I could ever imagine. I mean, it's like I won the lottery. I can't tell you what a freeing feeling that is to not give a crap about what other people think. This has been the number one tool that has helped me over these past 3 years and living by that philosophy. Whenever I get into a moment where I'm feeling anxious or insecure, that is my go to where I think of, is this a situation I can control? And if it's not, then I accept it. Period. I just accept it and move on. That's something that's really hard to do if you're not used to that. You have to practice it every day. You just have to live it every day. Eventually your brain does get trained to accept it, move on, and it becomes muscle memory, and your old patterns die off. You don't repeat them. If you do, it might up, I mean, you might ebb and flow a little bit at first, but the more you try, the better results you get. Okay, and then the other thing is, if it was something I could control, but I didn't know how, then it was about asking questions and finding answers to it and having support, finding a good support system too. Asking questions to people that you trust, and if they don't have the answer, asking them, do you know how to find the answer? Ask them if they have resources. You don't just stop and quit, you just keep going. And if they don't know, we keep looking for answers. But it's really important to make sure we go to the right people that we trust, that have our best interest in mind. But we can also go online for resources as well. So, one thing I learned is that we are never victims ever. We are 100% in control of our lives. Before my awakening, I was in victim mode. I thought whenever someone did something bad to me, that they were just bad and it was their fault. But I really didn't realize at that time that, yeah, I'm never a victim. So after my divorce, I used to date, I had relationships, but they weren't sustainable. And I repeated this pattern for years. I wanted a healthy relationship. I knew that, there were certain things I wasn't going to tolerate in my life anymore, and I didn't. But there were still patterns that I was doing that made these relationships not sustainable. I didn't know what boundaries were before my awakening. I mean, to an extent I did, obviously, but there were still things that I was doing where I would instill boundaries and I would be open about, what I want and don't want. But then when they would start to step over that boundary, I would say, okay, because I thought that that meant I cared about them if I was sacrificing, my own boundaries for their wants. No, I've learned no. Whenever you set a boundary, it's for you to make sure you're good. Your needs come first before their wants. And if somebody starts crossing those boundaries, you can talk about it, but if they keep doing it, you shouldn't have to repeat yourself more than once or twice. Otherwise, they're showing you who they are. So I've learned my lesson that way. That's a pattern that I broke. And it feels really good to enforce boundaries for yourself. It really helped my confidence. But another thing I've learned too, I realized before my awakening that I had something that was controlling that I was doing that I didn't know was controlling. I've learned that when you use the phrases, you need to do this or you have to do that, and it pertains to decisions that they could be making about their own lives, but I'm telling them how to live their lives, that's controlling. Okay. All right. So far, the biggest philosophies I've talked about that help me are acceptance, accepting the things we cannot change, changing the things we can, but knowing the difference That's huge too. And understanding that we cannot control what other people think, feel, or do. We can only control our reactions to their behaviors. Those two things are huge philosophies that have helped me. And then the other thing is setting healthy boundaries for ourselves and enforcing them. That is key. In the past, I did not have a problem implementing boundaries. I had a problem enforcing them. That's kind of important. If you set a boundary, we teach people how to treat us. So if we're setting a boundary, but we're not enforcing them, we're teaching people, I've learned, that you can walk all over me. It doesn't matter what I say. You can just have your way. So, yeah. And it helps your confidence so much when you do. It feels really good to enforce your boundaries. Another thing I've learned is keeping a positive attitude. Your attitude is everything as well. Whenever we're in like a low mood, you'll find that you don't make the best decisions for yourself then. You kind of want to keep yourself in that safe box and not go out of your comfort zone. That's how it was with me. I've learned not to make decisions based on emotion. If somebody upset me, I've learned to not react. Don't react. Wait until you're in a calm state, because I feel like everybody's probably had a situation where someone upsets them and they react, and then later they think, I really wish I hadn't reacted that way. Because a lot of times when someone upsets you, we kind of go into that heightened state of fight or flight mode. And when we're in that fight mode, sometimes we say things that we don't actually mean. And then we're really sorry. And then later we have to do damage control. That's not fun. So I've learned in those moments, first of all, it's okay to walk away. It's okay to not engage if someone's arguing with you. It's okay to tell them, I'm not in a place where I can talk about this right now, but let's talk about this later. I know with me, when I'm in a calm state, I have more intelligent conversations that prove to work for both me and the other person. But yeah, keeping a positive attitude about anything that you're going through, that's where you get to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Whenever we're in a bad mood and if we have a bad attitude, well, we just don't see the light at all. So it kind of keeps hope alive, I found, for me. And I always find the light now. And the one thing I've learned too about the patterns I had when I was dating is to create a solid foundation of trust first. And trust is earned. It's not just handed out. Just because you like somebody really badly and you want things to work out, it doesn't mean we hand over all of our trust. Trust is earned over a period of time. And I've learned with me, the way mutual trust is earned is by setting the boundaries and seeing if that person respects them over a long period of time. That period of time depends on how often I talk to them. If I talk to them on a daily basis, then I can probably see if they're respecting my boundaries within a month. Everyone can put on a mask and be perfect and act perfect for a period of time. Usually that mask falls off sooner than later, and you can start seeing people's true selves. I always believe that it's best to just be your natural self and allow people to see you for who you are right away, instead of putting on a fake smile and pretending to be somebody that you're not, because it always comes out. It's just best to just be yourself, because if they don't like me for who I am, it's best that we don't waste each other's time. And dating's about figuring out if you're a match for each other. So it's not about, I'm going to put on this mask, I'm going to pretend to be perfect for a month or 2 months, and then I'm going to be my normal crappy self. And then, oh, it's too late, we've already been dating a couple months, we might as well stay together. No, a lot of people feel that way, I found, but no, it doesn't work that way with me anyways. So yeah, that's all I have today, and I will see you in the next video.